So after 10 episodes, 10 weeks of this wonderful part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I'm still having an absolute blast. The thing that this part is doing really well, even ignoring the consistent quality in the visuals from the art and the overall animation, is how well the story is developing. I love gang stories, it's no surprise based on how much I praise this part of JoJo, but this episode is a great highlight of how it's keeping that gang story relevant and not just feeling like it's another JoJo part, just feeling like a JoJo part. The idea of this new hitman group, who I've been hearing nothing but positive things, a lot of people saying it's one of, if not the best side groups in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And right away, you can already tell from the visual design to just some of the personalities from the little snippets we did get to see, this is a group that is actually pretty damn cool, probably pretty damn devastating. Overall, it really shows you something about the boss that they were trying to overthrow. You look at just what happened in this episode. You're seeing some brutal and savage imagery and just overall reactions from these characters because of what the boss is willing to do to anyone who tries to cross them. This is a group that, unless you've read the manga, you have no experiences with. You don't really have a connection, so them dying, them being hurt, it's not going to make us hurt. We're not going to shed a tear for them like we might if someone like Giorno or Bruno or any of the other characters that we have been following over the past few months were to experience. But what they did is something that I love it when gang stories do this, because when they do it, it makes you really buy into the gang element. The boss is someone who should strike fear into everyone, even if they don't know his face. And that's something that is something that a lot of gang stories do, but I don't think they do as well as they possibly should. When this hitman group starts trying to double cross the boss, we see what the boss is willing to do to send a message. That makes us incredibly fearful because we're now applying that to what would happen to Giorno if his plan got out there. Now that is something that really shows you how well the story is being crafted in this JoJo part. Of course we got the JoJo absurdity, of course we got the over-the-top powers and reactions, but what this part and what this episode really highlighted is that there is a really strong overarching gang story being told, even if you remove that JoJo charm. This is amazing because you're looking at a group who clearly is very powerful, who clearly, if you know, you got a guy who can shrink things and he's the weak one, this is a group who is to be reckoned with, but look at what the boss is able to do to such a group. How is our main character gonna deal with that? That's something that I really like, and this part really highlighted quite well in showing us their kind of overall backstory to really get us to understand them a bit better than just the one guy who can shrink things. I thought was a nice touch, especially in the middle of the fight when they easily could have just stuck to the action. Very nice touch overall, and really gets me worried about the future of our main characters, seeing what can happen to a side group who you would think can hold their own, but really, if they cross the boss, they're gonna get their heads cut off. I really like that. But the overall action in this episode I thought was quite fun. Now, over the course of this first half of the episode when it was primarily just action, I actually was thinking to myself, this guy almost seems weak, because if we were in a normal world where people who had powers were actually rare and they didn't come into contact with stands that often, this would be an ability that's actually pretty effective. The fact that you can cut someone or just slowly but surely shrink them down to the point that they're a cockroach and you can easily kill them. But we're in a world where most people who end up with stands have something that's pretty effective like right away. So this guy, I was thinking, he actually seems weak. He actually seems like someone who would be easily defeated more often than not. And I actually loved when the group pretty much calls him useless when we get that small little bit of a backstory, because when you look at that group, you're probably going to assume most of them have a really effective ability right then and there, and this is a guy who has to run away. If you really look at it, he was running away this entire episode, last episode, because he can't really fight. It's more of he has to run away and hope that the person can't figure out his ability over 10 minutes or something like that, which I thought was really nice, because JoJo's a series that knows how to constantly show us overpowered characters to beat our other overpowered character, but I like how we have a character who you would think was going to be overpowered, but in actuality, he's actually just more lucky right now that the opponent that he's fighting is having a hard time figuring out where he is and how he can defeat him, which I really like. And the fact that Aerosmith can actually detect people based on when they exhale their breath, I thought was a nice touch, because I really was under the assumption that it was just going to be, you know, a plane that can shoot missiles, some bullets, things like that. But the fact that it actually can track people like that, I thought was pretty nice and really makes you feel like there's actually a lot going on to these stands in this part of JoJo. You got all this creative elements kind of circling around these characters. I mean, Giorno is one of the best examples because of all the things that he can do with his stand, but it's nice to see that all the characters for the most part are getting these stands that are either just very interesting or they just really shake up the formula because there's so many things that they can do. Just watching this fight unfold when you have a character who's slowly but surely shrinking down to size, and you would think he seems like he's not the smartest, so he's not going to be able to get out of this, but he's actually proven that he does have his intelligence in his own way. He just applies himself differently than others. And I like how even though we have a stand who clearly is weak in the grand scheme of things, he was still able to push a main character against a wall. And it's actually like, is he going to get out of it? I think so. But it's nice to see just how they were able to shake up the JoJo formula with a guy who's slowly shrinking, but also can track his enemies so easily. That's exciting. I do expect possibly that maybe some of the group is going to locate him. Like, they really were showing like they're starting to get worried, so I am curious if some of them are going to go after him, or if we are just going to see the machine gun just shoot him down somehow. I don't know exactly what they're going to do in terms of how they're going to conclude the fight, but I just hope they don't drag it out in next week's episode, because I actually was expecting for the fight to finish in this episode. So as long as it's like the first fourth to the first half of next week's episode and not any longer, I think the fight will be a really solid fight overall that will be memorable. But if it goes any longer, I think it actually will feel dragged out. I can't find anything I'm not enjoying about this part so far. If you break down the overall arcing gang story, it's gripping, it's really thrilling, and then when you apply the JoJo elements, all the creative stance, all the creative personalities and characters, like, you're seeing so many things that make a gang story even more interesting. The fact that you have a guy who can shrink things and then he puts a car in the guy's wine so it explodes, and it's just so horrible, and it makes for massacres even more of a horror design situation than most gang stories, because most gang stories, you know, you enter with a machine gun, a Tommy gun, a sniper rifle, you stab them to death. But here with JoJo, you can do things like put a car in a guy's stomach and have it explode, and just then the car hitting the date. There's a lot of brutality to this JoJo part, but what they're doing a really good job with is making that brutality not feel edgy or not feel so forced, because this is a gang setting where people are going to kill, people are going to do despicable things, but they still make you kind of root for the main group, because even though the main group are criminals, they're still the most righteous out of the bunch that we've seen, because they're not going to hurt people that are innocent when they can help it, but they still have their kind of questionable aspects to their characters. And really, this has been a phenomenal part. Like, really, I'm so excited to see where the series is going to go, because right now, I don't think there's been a major dip, and I've expected some dips at least around here, because even with last part of JoJo, around the episode 10 mark, you're starting to notice maybe the art's dipping here or there, or maybe just something felt a little off. Right now, for me, I'm really happy with this part of JoJo. Nothing feels off, everything feels highly polished, as if David Production maybe had a bit more time to kind of polish all these scenes up before they started releasing them. I'm not totally sure, maybe they just love this part so much that it's just showing in the overall quality, but the characters have been damn exciting. When I'm as interested in these side characters as I am in the main ones, you know the writing is doing a phenomenal job. Let me know whatever you thought of this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Your favorite moment? Whatever you're feeling, let me know. And be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content from me in the future. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.